Right, so again, thank you so much everyone for coming. It's a little bit lower on people than we normally have, but we have my friend Jason here from Auditsu. Auditsu, I do apologise. If you'd like to introduce yourself and talk about how you started off, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm Jason from Auditsu. Yeah, so we registered a business in 2023. We built a mobile application that just everyone did. We asked ChatGPT to say, give us a business idea, and we massively went down a rabbit hole and built an app. And it's an app that created illustrated children's stories. So it was the first multimodal app that hit the app stores, creating text and image before ChatGPT was. And we've become something else since then.
Yeah. So what's actually created the switch then?
So our business now is evolving, and this is Simon. So he's our founding architect. We realized after making all the mistakes of trusting ChatGPT that that wasn't going to be a business model that we were going to retire on and take care of my kids as what I envisioned in my head. So I had this idea: we're going to have this app, we're going to make millions of pounds, and everything's going to be fine. And very quickly realized after making all the mistakes, not locking down IP, not doing anything right, and I had to just start from scratch. So I looked at, I think, over 130 different business ideas. I just went mad, and as you would understand more than anyone.
Absolutely.
And one of the underlying tones when we built the app was around accessibility, and it was difficult for me to understand how to build an accessible app at the time, and it got really frustrating because I couldn't find, just where was the information? Why isn't this easy? Why isn't this clear? So I started looking at, how I didn't want to become a no-code platform, but I thought, if we were a no-code platform, what would be a USP? And it would be a no-code platform that created accessible apps. So then we stepped back and went, how would that work? Well, there would need to be some kind of audit module within that tested the apps to check that they were accessible before it printed it. So I thought, well, we could just build that audit tool that allowed, no-code platforms or businesses to create apps that were accessible. So I went.
So how did you get involved?
Down this road, and so after about a year of doing that, we were doing various accelerators and stuff, and Simon was entrepreneur in residence.
Yes. So Simon, and taken different paths, but I'm from Yorkshire originally. I spent half my life in Silicon Valley, literally exactly half my life. So if I'd have stayed another year, I would have become American. So it just dawned on me I need to be back home. A little bit of a social experiment, got plugged into the accelerators in London, so in Shoreditch, AI Accelerator, Manchester, Leeds, because my old professor is now the VC in Huddersfield. They gave me an office and a free roaming thing, and that's where I met Jason. And amongst all those social experiments, why am I with Jason today? Because I probably across half a dozen different engagements since I landed, parachuted back in. I probably enjoy working with Jason more than any of those others.
How did you both meet then to get this started?
I was doing a what?
Yeah, so the West Yorkshire Combined Authority managed to spend £6 million on an accelerator program called Innovative Entrepreneurs, and part of that was a tie to Huddersfield University, and Simon was floating around Huddersfield University looking for something interesting to get involved with, and we chatted for a good year before we dipped in. So I was trying to figure things out. I was taking little 5K grants here and there. I was building. I was working with a student, and it was just fucking hopeless. And I pulled the student in to meet with Simon, and we sat there. We had a good whiteboarding session, and then kind of beyond that, he phoned me.
Then a couple of months later, I called and said, for tax reasons, it just needs, I need something billable. And I think I've been building 24/7 times 365 for more than a year now.
Year and a half.
Year and a half for £500.
I paid him a total of £500
Yeah.
for all that work. I mean, you know, Silicon Valley's
It's
got
kind of
money,
working
right?
fee as part of his community service. Is
Well,
that right? Yeah.
Well, it's something like that. But it was difficult because I'm a non-technical founder. Right? My background was in recruitment, and you know, I really didn't know what I was doing except just breaking things and just challenging things and trying to understand my mindset. You know, where we're trying to go. And Sam was very good at kind of mapping out from a technical perspective, you know, next steps and moving forward. So then we kind of decided to formalize that, and we built Auditsu, which was, you know, our core product is an accessibility audit tool that, you know, if you're building an app or a website, and if you're building an app and you're keen to make it accessible and speak to me, we'll give you a free code so you can access the platform and be able to do it. But essentially, our focus was on the European market because they had a piece of legislation called the European Accessibility Act that mandates into law. So companies that, you know, have money and a legal obligation, they'll pay for some of that pain to go away, and our platform allows them to manage it in-house rather than using consultancies. Since then, though, we've evolved quite a lot. So, you know, got a nice story. So, you know, not many of you will be familiar with the horse manure crisis of 1894. So we've had horses for centuries, right? And horses have always produced shit. But the Industrial Revolution brought millions of people into the cities. And the city of London was just an absolute catastrophe. They brought in the top engineers. They were saying, you know, bigger carts, more rounds, just try and get rid of this horse manure as much as possible. And realistically, they couldn't keep on top of it. And they were estimating in 1940 that they would be under 9 foot of horse shit. Now, that problem disappeared overnight with the introduction of the car. And all of a sudden, that's a problem that no longer had to be served. But the same problem currently exists with companies now that are adopting artificial intelligence within governed environments or within regulated sectors. They're, you know, be that a loan approval or rejection, or, you know, autonomous braking in vehicles, these sort of things. So there's lots of AI decisions being made within businesses that have to answer for them. And normally there's one person within a business that has to answer for that. Now, the challenge isn't with, you know, auditing that something made a decision and it was yes. The challenge is the same as the horseshit scenario. It's scale. And as companies start adopting more autonomous decisions within the businesses, they just can't keep on top of that. And part of our platform within the accessibility line, so our title back together, was, you know, you're making these decisions, you're using AI to make decisions and auditing an app or a website. But, you know, if an auditor was to come and say, why did you do that? Or how did that decision get made? Under what authority? What governed that decision? And we built an engine that effectively works across any governed business, any business that has to work within deep regulations, and allows them to be able to build an audit trail as they work, evidenced and time-stamped, in a way that they can scale with AI quite comfortably. So the business itself, we went from accessibility, and now, what are we doing now?
Governance.
Governance.
Governance, risk and compliance. Who'd have thunk?
And so going back to something that you said
That's
a
the
little
least sexy thing I've done ever in my
Is it really?
in my 60 years.
That is. So you used to be a recruiter, much like myself. And it's something we were talking about with yourself earlier on, about the fear of rejection. And I think like a background in recruitment can be quite helpful in that respect. Would you agree, or?
Yeah, so we, you know, as Ronaldo says, the more shots you take, the more likely you are to make a goal. And that was always instilled into me. So I was a decade in recruitment, but I was in sales before then. I'd a couple of exits when I was younger with different businesses, but it was always built on the mindset of what I'm thinking will work probably won't. So when I go into things, it's all around, I'm probably wrong in this, but let's test it. And we come up with ideas and we test them rapidly. Like for us, a proof of concept, 2 hours. So if we're building a proof of concept for a client or for us or for a new feature, it's 2 hours because we can test that and learn very quickly, is that right or wrong? So we approach things from that perspective of,
It's an interesting concept because I think Jason's been blessed with a superpower in that he's got the agency to build things that shouldn't be built in 2 hours. So he's got no concept of, so our last 2 hours, modality. So I think we had a hackathon session on a Friday a month ago, 2 months ago.
Just within the business.
Within the business. And I was scoping, this should take 10 hours. And he said 2. So, of course, we have to. So that window was very much shortened and magic happens in 2 hours.
That was a really exciting session doing that hackathon because...
What made you pick 2 hours?
Well, because that's what I worked to. That's what I, from my mind, I'm like, yeah, it should only take you 2 hours to build something.
I thought it was going to be a 10-hour day.
Our engineer, he was 2 weeks. His head was like 2 weeks.
That was like, come on.
He's trying to defend himself a little bit. He said 48 hours.
Did I say 48?
And I said 2 hours. And the really fun thing was we went building. And then 2 hours later, we checked in and we'd all made something really, really cool. And then we went on for the rest of the day and we just fannied around for the rest of the day. We're just adding bells and whistles and nothing that actually added any value.
Well, I have ADHD and I find that everything takes as long as I assign it. Yeah. So if I'm given a month to do it and I decide to do it in the last 30 minutes, it takes 30 minutes. Yeah, it really is as simple as that.
Exactly. So, as a business, that's where our line is now. So we talk about raising the ceiling.
Raising the ceiling.
The business, not raising the floor, but raising the ceiling and making things that were previously out of scope or, you would never think you could do that. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but we did. Mm. So now that's our new mindset going into things. It's 2 hours. So next month it'll be an hour. What can we do in an hour? And, are you actually adding much more value beyond that?
Absolutely. So the previous thing, so when I first met you, you'd built, or you were in the middle of building, is it AI animation?
Imagination.
There we go.
Imagination, but put AI in the middle because it was cool.
Yeah.
But then when it took to handing my email out, it was a pain in the arse. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really clever. Is that sort of linked into what you're doing now then? Or is that like a complete shift?
It's a complete shift. So when I built the app, I got frustrated with the accessibility bit. So it was just an underlying thing that sat down. At the time, I paired up with an engineer who was great. We met through the parenting NCT. It's not the car park, NCT, yeah, class. And, we were getting really well and agreed terms in principle, but he never really signed them. And then we brought someone else in and I was spending all my money and there was just feature creep. We were just massively over-engineering something that didn't really need to be over-engineered. We had 10,000 users on the wait list. We launched on test flight and we realized, I realized because I was the only one that saw the data, that people absolutely fucking loved this app for about 3 days. And then that novelty just disappeared dramatically. And then the engineers were like, well, we're going commercializing it now. We want 50% of the company, and that was a very easy decision for me to then just go. There isn't a company, there isn't a business here. And
how did it feel making that decision then? I'm not. I was going to use the word failure, but I don't mean failure. It's a lot of people struggle with making the decision to step away and move into something else. Was it a big thing for you, or were you just like?
I remember it, I remember, my heart rate absolutely pounding whilst I'm having this conversation with the engineer, and me being full known that he's got access to absolutely everything. Certain things have been registered in his name, certain things have been registered in my name. I remember my wife just at the table as I was having these conversations with her. She's like, I can't deal with this, there's too much stress, I need to get out of here. And I just made the decision, delete the AWS server and start again. And completely just switched it off.
Yeah,
I think we're a bit cursed in the UK. So whilst I spent 30 years in a bubble, and I'd say the US is a bubble, but Silicon Valley's a bubble, we've got this weird psyche or predisposition around failure. I don't think in 30 years there's not even, it just doesn't come into the conversation. So and if it does come into a conversation, it's got a positive connotation. And also I hear pivot way too used too liberally. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're building for 3 years and you've changed direction half a dozen times, that's not a pivot, not until you've got customers and you've got revenue. I hear scale way too early. Everybody's fixated. Everybody just, the narrative, the fold in the narrative always is, so how are you going to scale? And people here are miles off scaling. Miles. You're not going to fail because of scaling. You're going to fail because you can't get 100 power users.
Yeah. I don't think failure is the same thing as people think it's going to be anyway. It's the same as dating. If you go on a date with someone and you discover that you're not fit, that you're not fitting with each other, it doesn't matter. It just means you move on, you do the next thing.
But part of that, I'd just say it's a journey, and it's a discovery phase. It's a discovery phase until you've got a business with a board and with customers and paying customers, and you're getting close to break even.
One of the interesting things, so at the accelerator that I was on, where I met Simon, so they were partnering with all these universities across Leeds and these or Yorkshire, and they were these West Yorkshire, and these universities were getting targeted to, the companies that choose you as their hub, you'll get a bonus, if there's a successful outcome from them, if they grow a business. And they all,
what is a successful?
Well, they all pushed back and went, well, if a company comes on the accelerator and realizes this is a really bad idea, this is a successful outcome.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to spend the next 2 years chasing something that's just not right.
Yeah, I agree.
But the accelerator was delayed for 2 years because the lawyers kept arguing it, and that's what the £6 million got spent on.
Yeah.
But it's so true. It's so true. Like if you can learn quickly, and it's learning. If you learn fast, then it's not failure.
You'll know yourself in doing sales and recruitment. Getting to know faster sometimes can be great. There's no point chasing somebody that's absolutely never going to use your products. What use is that going to do?
If you spend 5 years building a business and you've got no customers, that's a failure because you've not learned and you've not pivoted. That's where fail. That's you've not learned. Yeah. But if you can learn that this isn't the right fit within 6 months, great. You're moving and you can continue on a different path and a different trajectory.
That's fair news. What's going to be next for you lot then? Is there a sales strategy, or how are you finding potential clients?
So
who are potential clients even?
Any enterprise adopting artificial intelligence to make decisions within regulated sectors, but we're currently filing a patent for our engine that makes it possible at scale. So that's going to be really cornerstone for us, trying to lock in that category. There's a lot of system of record companies, a lot of businesses, Vantar, Drata, whatever, where you log things in a way and it just documents it. But our system kind of sits outside of that box and kind of creates that I'm not going to the mechanics of it because of the patent, but we make it possible at scale for that. And I think it's really exciting to look at that. But we're constantly testing the data with the accessibility platform that we have and using that to validate this model. And, accessibility is huge. The more I've got talking to users that are, disabled or people that are, very empathetic and trying to build that, it's a huge challenge. And it shouldn't be a challenge to make something accessible. And for businesses, genuinely, accessibility just means it's more usable for everyone. And it should be something that's...
What kind of things would make that then? What are the kind of things that would make something more accessible?
So, if you're a parent and you got your kids, nursing away, but you're trying to watch a how-to video on YouTube, you want subtitles. You're on the rare days where you got sunshine and you can't fucking see the button on your phone because of the contrast. That's just basic color contrast setting. For the elderly, you see when you hand your phone to your grandparents and their arm's just not fucking long enough to be able to see what it's on, right? To be able to resize the text effectively on that. These are all accessibility issues, but they're not disabled users. And so that's a perfect example of, just how basic accessibility features improve the ability for people to be able to use and makes it easier to attract and retain customers.
Yeah, fair enough. So I was talking to somebody earlier today at the event, and it was about when they're trying to get new customers. And they were saying that about their issue is that they perhaps over-investigate. They almost like spend too much time studying who they should be speaking to, and it's without actually making the call. So what would your take on that be? Do you like just jump on the phone to somebody that you've identified, or how do you identify a company?
I've got an agent, and I just put / and the command that sets off my research agent, and that fills my outreach thing by 15 contacts a day, and I just do that every morning, and they enter an outreach sequence which includes things from email, LinkedIn to phone calls, and we approach them that way.
What system do you use? Do you use like HubSpot or something?
It's all on Cloud Code.
Okay,
so it's all on Cloud. Everything's
so you're saying about
codified.
the phone calls and the things, is it going
I do them.
Yeah.
So I do all the manual bits within that, but it's like one of the biggest things that you'll find when you launch a company and you've got loads of people talking to you about how much this is going to sit off their problems, and they love it and they'll definitely be a customer. As soon as you launch that app, none of them want to be your customer, and it doesn't matter what you're building and what you're setting up. It's the selling is so bloody difficult, and
What do you think the disparity is then? What's it causing it? Because I find it like with the different AIs when they're talking about what you should do for marketing and this and that, and it's going off what people say they're going to respond to, but then they actually respond to something completely different. So what is it causing these people saying these things and then them doing something different, do you think? People are people. They say things that they think you want to hear. It's a great book called The Mom Test, MOM Test, and the audiobook's great. The author narrates it, and it's all about asking the right questions to who you think your potential customers are to get the actual answers that you can use in a meaningful way to help you build the business. But yeah, great book. And when I'm doing like a heavy outreach day, then like I'll normally, so I listen to audiobooks on 3x speed, so I can get through that book in about 40 minutes. I'd be able to, but I just wouldn't take any of it in.
Well, I've listened to it so many times. But yeah, so I do my noise cancelling headphones on, and I just I get through.
How do you find making the calls then that you do? Like, is it difficult? Do you still get nervous doing it, or?
I don't get nervous. I get frustrated. It's actually really funny because nobody fucking answers the phone anymore if you don't know the number. Yeah. So actually, our most receptive outreach is when I ring them, they don't answer, and then I send a follow-up email. It's like, hey, I've just tried to call you. Where did you get my number from? That's the immediate reply I get. And I've had a couple of really receptive conversations that follow on. Oh, I got it from here. Here's how you get your name removed. Blah blah blah. Use Apollo. And
why are they bothered? Well, I don't mind people calling me.
Well, I don't. I've got a great call screening function on my Samsung phone now, which is great. And you can just any number I don't know call screening, and they have to chat to a voice agent.
Another AI.
That's great. But the selling's definitely difficult. I think with the new platform, what we're doing, because it's those bigger enterprises, we're currently looking at the larger Eureka European grant programs, bigger tender processes, and kind of following those, because our current platform in the beta is £200 a month. The new platform, that's going to be, 20k a month. That's a different customer. It's a different buyer. It's a different. It's not, that cold selling is not going to work in the same way that it does for the app and.
How do you decide on something like price structure? I know we were chatting about it earlier on, weren't we? It's a difficult. It's not as straightforward as everyone thinks it is. You think the cheaper you go, the more likely you are to do it. It doesn't necessarily work that way, does it?
No, and we were talking about it outside. Perceived value is really important. There's some of you might have heard of a company called Crisp in Leeds. They were founded by a guy called Adam Hildreth, and he had a huge, hundreds of $1 million exit a few years ago. And I don't know how true it is, but there's a story where he was pitching Google, one of these big things, and they were saying, how much is your platform? And I'm making numbers up, but he was like, oh, it'll be 250 grand. And they kind of squinted and he went, per region? Oh, great. Yeah, that's in line with the kind of value that we put on this product. And I've heard the story in multiple things, but there's a genuine theme of, creating that value by, when you buy things in the shop and you see, here's the basic product and here's the medium product, and it's priced just a little bit over half the price compared to the high-end product, and people perceive the value of that one, but it's maybe only a fraction better than the smaller one. But
you wouldn't buy a
experiment.
car that cost £1, would you? Yeah, so that you just would not believe that it was fit for purpose.
Well, I don't know. It might be a nice experiment, but yeah.
Well, you maybe do it once.
But I wouldn't. It's all experimentation, and you're going to go out with something and say, oh, I think it's going to worth this, and no one buys it. So you drop your price a bit. But then at some point you might go, actually, I'll increase the price. And you see actually more people are more receptive at a higher price than a lower price, and it's experimentation, right? And I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mentioned it outside. There was a company, Heredities, that did bronze statues. They couldn't figure out why they weren't selling, and it turned out they weren't costing enough. So they quadrupled the price, and suddenly 10x the sales. It's unbelievable. It's counterintuitive, but people ascribe a value to how much something actually costs. If something costs next to nothing, they just think, well, this is going to be shit. This is what it is. So what's next for you, then?
Oh, that's good.
If one of you could answer, that'd be great. So we raised VC money last year, which I guess was quite exciting. So we raised pre-product, pre-revenue from a VC, and there wasn't many companies in the UK that managed to do that. And our burn rate is next to nothing, considering I don't pay Simon. And so I guess we're kind of in that path as to we get a good grant, we get a good tender on that we can get some money up front, and we continue pushing down that path. But it might be that we need to look at raising a seed round, and bringing more investors on, or looking at another VC and bringing them on. But efficiency.
From my side, data ingestion, so we can set the standard, the benchmark.
What does that mean? Tell me what that means.
I've no. Jason's my translator.
We got $100,000 of Google credits, so we will max that out this year, just generating synthetic data and proving that what we're building works on these synthetic data models, as well as bringing in some pilot customers so that we can prove it on real data models, and then mapping it all around. Simon just
at massive scale.
Yeah, maniacally builds 24/7. I pushed 55 pages to our website at 3 a.m. this morning. Simon was on the other end. We just push constantly. I don't sleep. Simon doesn't sleep. I genuinely sleep 2 to 4 hours a night. Last night's like 1 hour. Sometimes I'll skip a night. And it's just hardcore, extreme focus. I don't take holidays. Simon doesn't take holidays, doesn't take days off. Sometimes I'll have a Sunday off.
Self-employment's fucking fantastic, isn't it? You think it's going to be the easy route, but...
But it is. It's so much easier when you're doing it for yourself than when you're doing it for someone else. I absolutely would not be working for a large company, given them the amount of time that I give myself today. But, I think the goal is that we build something that's easier to buy than build. you know, my focus is on, you know, an exit strategy. You know, can we generate an $80 million exit within the next 2 to 3 years? So that's my pure focus on driving. Do you know, we might not get that, but we might have a very profitable business and live a quite comfortable life, and there's other things that come from it. But my mindset is on, you know, all this damage I'm doing to my body today, you know, the way health tech and stuff's progressing.
I think you'll live forever.
You know, singularity is near, maybe I can unwind the damage. But it's, it's just, we just give it absolutely everything, because who knows what's going to happen. And it's fun.
I'm very much commercially anchored, so I think we'll be measuring that over the rest of this year. We have to be progressing through commercial gates.
We measure
so
everything.
It's not, and everything's measured.
Everything's measured, looked, improved, tweaked, modified.
So it's not just about building. So I've got the massive scale.
Even the outreach, you know, every couple of weeks we look at the outreach, look at the responses, do A/B testing, tweak that and adjust that. It's just everything's measured, everything's codified. You hear a lot of companies saying they're AI native. I say we are more than most, but we're definitely not. And would you?
It's all in the harness.
All in the harness.
It's all in our harness.
Yeah.
Fair is. Has anyone got any questions? Go on.
Yeah, I've got a question. Simon, would you like to come and work for me for £1,000?
Lovely.
Oh, because I've just given him equity.
Happy to give my time out. Happy.
So one of the.
But no advisor role. Frankly, I find that a major grift in the UK. So my time is spending
grift?
Grift is a US term.
No, that. Well, what is the grift?
Advisors.
Oh, okay, got you.
Drives me crack it. But in terms of giving time over coffee for a chat, otherwise I'm building.
We've got an office, Central Leeds, next door to the Purple Door Strip Club. I'm sure you all know it. We've got 2 desks in there, and they're open for people to come and drop in. They're just, you know, if you want to look at roadmap, you want to look at a technical hurdle you're going through, and you know, this is what
I fundamentally believe in sustainable abundance. So it's not. There's never a win-lose. We can all win. And I think it's a beautiful point in time where technology is completely democratized. So let's go back to our building, creating heritage and dig this economy out of the bloody hole. Because that's all we need to do. We just need to mobilise the country and the nation and have a honest conversation, and people need to go back to building. We just need to build and create. And if we've got this beautifully democratised bit of technology now that's going to be with us for our lifetime.
There it is. Yeah. Anyway, any other questions?
What was the catalyst going from recruitment, which is quite different to what you're doing now, to going into the tech world?
Makes you fearless, doesn't it?
Well, I was a nerd, like for sure. Like I was a very, very good recruiter, but hated everyone I worked with. Because I love my clients and I do a really good job for my clients. But at home, you know, like, so the first business I sold, second business I sold actually, I was 24. It was a car detailing company. You know, I built my own website way before, you know, it was easy to build websites, and you know, I had a really good booking thing. I'd, you know, built my own home server, 2 petabyte of data on a virtual home server with all the movies, and I was loving like playing with bash scripts and doing all that stuff. Couldn't write a single line of code, but I got expelled from 2 schools, and it was because I was always challenging things and pushing back and stuff. And it turns out that's the kind of behaviour that LLMs really work well and respond well to. You know, I just kind of, when you know, ChatGPT came out, the kind of public thing, I just got really into it again. And
I was elsewhere on the globe, like Antipodean, Yeah. So I was getting up at 5 a.m.
So he was in Australia. So we used to pair program. That's how we did everything. So because I couldn't write code, but he wouldn't write code without me being on the call. So we had to pair program. There was like
Prima donna.
How long were you in Australia?
I don't write code on my own.
He was in Australia for fucking ages. So I was working during the day because I couldn't code because he was offline. I'd finish up. I put my kid to bed, 8 o'clock. I then log in. He'd log in at 5 a.m. his time. I was like 8, 9 o'clock our time. We would code through to like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to bed for a couple of hours and get up at 7 and start my work day. And we did that for ages. But it was just fun and
Pair
just
programming.
evolved with that.
Breakthrough.
Yeah. I found, because I worked in recruitment myself, I worked for a company called O'Neill and Brennan, and it just made me fucking fearless. But it's like the amount of people who would have like made a call and been told to fuck off and gone, oh, no, I'm never going to call that person again. Was it you who was talking about calluses earlier on? It's like, you just develop it. It's like you sit down. I even do it now. I still get panicked now, and you think, oh my God, I've got these people I need to call. Oh, it's going to go this badly. It's going to go this badly. You're just like, fuck it. Call. And the first 10 go wrong. And then the rest are absolutely fine. And you just don't care. And it's not about being confident that it's going to go really well. I think it's just being courageous enough to just tolerate when it doesn't. So you just crack on with it. Andy?
Oh, yeah. So have you had like unexpected lessons from the accessibility side of things? And also some examples.
Yeah, no one cares.
Yeah.
It's true. Like it's.
No, it is. There's someone who was out with us the night that we actually met. I won't say who it is because I don't want to embarrass them because it's been recorded. But she developed a fintech app, and she was saying to me once, I don't know what's going to happen if this doesn't work out. And I said, well, what's going to happen is the fucking world's going to keep spinning, and you'll do something else, and no one will give a shit. And it's absolutely right. So it's like if things go absolutely wrong, you think everyone's going to like judge you and all this kind of. They won't. They'll just crack on with their lives. They don't care. So you just have a go, see what's going to happen. You agree or?
Yeah, for sure. But I guess like, just to kind of emphasize on my point, like we built a solution that means companies don't have to pay 15 to 50K. They're in a regulated environment. There are legal obligations to do it. And we go to them and they're like, we'll wait until some more people get prosecuted and then we'll worry about it. And it was the same with GDPR. GDPR came in for 6 months, nothing. Nobody did anything. They were just absolutely, let's see what happens. And then Google got that huge fine and all of a sudden everyone went, oh, that's something we need to start looking at.
It is a big red flag, been early, been too early.
Yeah. And annoyingly, I'm early on everything.
Yeah.
My wife
At least
says.
people know you though at that point. It's not going to be the one call and done, is it?
No, but that's probably, if you've got a good idea and you've got good drive, you're going to fail if you're too early. If you're not too early, I think you can work everything else out.
I think there's definitely a sweet spot, isn't there? You see people come in way too early and then fizzle out, and then something happens, and the sweet spot, and then another company comes in doing the exact same thing and absolutely
kills
rock
it.
it. Yeah. So, that's one of the challenges we have.
That's always a risk.
Yeah, but it's a challenge that we faced.
But you need to learn that as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you live in founder fantasy land.
Yeah.
Simon's very good at pulling me out of that fantasy land.
So if we don't
aggressively.
have customer truth, it is pure.
What does founder fantasy land? What does it mean?
Or until it's anchored with a customer truth, it's pure fantasy.
Yeah. So just what you're thinking, but not
And it could
necessarily.
be fantastic, of course it could.
So when we raised money, we hired one engineer and we built the entire platform, back end, front end, everything in 2 months, and put it out to market. We then brought in, and Simon was like, "I'm not building another fucking thing until you get a customer."
So, eat your freeze.
He even put on a Scottish accent. And so now we brought in a customer and they're great and they're very receptive, being a design partner. So we're building around them, but equally so, they don't actually want what we built, and we're now looking.
That's alarming.
Not the core product.
not the core product, but the other bit we built. He's like, oh, this can actually just save all of our problems from here. So because we've managed to get in there, we've understood what their truths are, we understand what their actual pain points are. We're really pushing this governance engine because, they're a company that services the NHS, and they've got all these things they need to do around auditing and stuff, and they're like, holy shit, yeah, this would absolutely change your lives if you could apply this to that. So the business evolved around a customer truth, and that's exciting because whilst we've got an accessibility platform, some people care, but most people don't care to actually put the time into actually becoming that model, which is why we're evolving. But we'll still have the accessibility business there, and it will still be something that will generate data and something that we can use and save people time and money. But
That's fair.
it's a big lesson.
Any last questions?
I'm interested in back in the day when you met each other and you're working each other out, and there must have been a few moments where you're considering, is this a person that I want to really, form a team with, form a partnership and go and try and solve some stuff together?
We chatted for a good year.
It's a marriage.
How did you decide that you would marry each other?
We tried for a good
18
year
months.
before anything. Yeah. But it was a case of,
Remote.
we'd have a whiteboarding session, or we'd have a chat and we'd do something, and I'd take it away and I'd try and get the business a bit further forward, get more people on the wait list, try and, move the tech along, or try and figure out, mentally what the logic is that would make this platform.
Well, finding someone
Feasible,
that you
but-
can actually work with is more difficult than it sounds, isn't it?
It is,
There's
it
people that you
is.
feel like you've got like this, I don't know, I hate the phrase, but synergy with, and then you actually work together and discover that they're fucking nightmarish,
Well,
as my ex-business partner found about me,
I think we're both difficult to work with. And we were talking about it, scaling our team from 2 to 3 people, so bloody difficult because we're both mad as hatters, and we're just
It broke our spine.
we're just absolutely wired.
It broke the backbone of the company.
Poor engineer that came in, and he was great. He was a good engineer,
Yeah.
but he'd shut his laptop at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and he'd log in at 8 o'clock in the morning and be like, I feel like I've missed a week. Because we're just constantly just blah, blah, blah. We've taken what he's built and ripped it apart and rebuilt it and shot it back in, and he gets in and he's like, why are you doing that? But it's really difficult.
I'm going to be a little bit hippie there. I don't think you can engineer it. I think you need to come to these sorts of things,
Chat and find out.
chat, get engaged. So it's not advise. I'm steadfastly taking on anybody that has an advisor title, but engaging and building together, doing those whiteboards and letting it organically evolve. But put yourself out there, and with the right energy, I do think the universe avails itself. I don't think there's a system where, and I definitely don't believe in this nonsense ecosystem layer here where you take on advisors and advisory board and all.
You can see that as your own system. Go out there, talk to people, bring good energy. That's how you.
And engage properly, not just on some cursory, here's my advice. But I mean, engage and build together.
Simon would never tell me, do it this way or, do it that way. We would look at concepts, but, agency was always kind of the big thing that we talked about. And I think Simon would be able to just kind of move me over a little hurdle, but then I'd be able to progress that and take that in different angles and grow that without being prompted further.
So the agency's a big piece.
Yeah, and one of the challenges with hiring a lot of engineers these days is that the agency doesn't exist, and you can give them a little bit and they get stuck and they'll wait for the next call before they tell you that they got stuck, and they're not really thinking outside the box.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yes.
It's impossible, but I think that's really exciting when you can have a small conversation with someone. So bringing founders into our office and having chats with them and then leaving them and seeing them a couple of months later and being like, holy fuck, that's incredible. Yeah, you just needed that little edge and then you're off. And I think that's really exciting. And when you're networking and having conversation with someone, you get closer and you start riffing around ideas and then seeing where you take them, then you'll very quickly understand and learn who the people you want to stick close to are, rather than the people that just did it textbook what you said and then stopped. That's not what you're.
Anybody else? No?
I was just getting excited there.
When's the footy on? I don't even know what.
25 minutes.
Perfect timing.
Try to get finished before the football starts, I think, so I don't want to be mobbed by football.
We've got another
fans.
25 minutes. So anyway, it was,
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, despite the football and what have you. And a sincere apology for, one, getting your name wrong on the post that I put.
Crispin, not Crispin.
Yeah. And then doubling down on it and getting the company name wrong when I started the talk.
Jiu-jitsu.
all good, all good.
I've never been that, focused on things like this, so I hope you can accept my apology on that.
All good.
Yeah, good. Well, listen, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We've still got some drinks and bits and pieces, so just have a drink, make sure you all connect with each other. If you've enjoyed the event, I'd really appreciate it if you could have a couple of photos, post bits and pieces. If you haven't enjoyed it, keep your mouth shut, yeah? Well, we're good. Yeah. But thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much to you both for attending. It's been absolutely fantastic. Cheers. Let's go and have a drink, eh?